Good morning, everyone. Welcome to American Scouser's morning coffee or tea with American Scouser. It's Monday morning. Grumpy is in full effect, mainly because it's Monday. Otherwise, not a bad weekend. Every team I support won, although they were all a little painful. So I am back in action on a Monday, and so is the Polish Prince. What is going on?
Just doing well. It's nice out. I don't know how it is a couple hours down south, but there's sun today, so
Couple of
that's really
hours.
nice.
Jesus, what are you walking back here? We're not that far. I mean, maybe I know I'm in the suburbs and you're closer to the city and everything, but still, it's not that far. We're used to, jabs from Mateusz, though. I mean, if you guys missed the
Oh,
pre-match,
don't,
if you guys missed the
please don't.
pre-match, first of all, don't miss the pre-match because Mateusz over here hosted, so that's a joy within itself. And he's a rough host, I'll tell you what. And I'm not talking about hosting; I'm talking about firing on all cylinders. Just attacking all the guests and stuff. It was ugly. How about early morning Game Boy? Rough first time watching it from the beach wasn't bad. Orc Boy, yeah, you another idol over here. I don't know if it's him. I don't know if it's Sparky Parky. He's back in UK. Orc Boy is on the beach. It's all good times while we're struggling a couple of hours away from each other in Chicago over here.
You know how traffic is. It's definitely a couple hours. Fuck off.
So, what did you make of the weekend's game? I know you had to. It's your Saturday. Mateusz works on Saturdays, so actually, early game kind of worked for you, probably in
Yeah,
some ways,
I
right?
was actually able to see the whole thing, which is nice. That is the one time slot on Saturdays where I could watch the whole thing, but I still hate every moment of it because every time we play that time slot, it's just hell. And after that first half, it felt like it was going to be the most miserable weekend again because it just felt like a rerun of the last several seasons of that stupid early fixture. But yeah, it was a night and day kind of Jekyll and Hyde performance from Liverpool, and I feel like we talked about this in the Discord, and I'm sure I wasn't able to watch the post match, obviously, but these are the kind of games, the kind of moments that really stick out in your mind as a memory of the year. And however it is going to end, we're going to think back and go, that comeback against Wolves, that comeback against Newcastle, like these are the games that if you are a serious title contending side, which I think we can be, that these are the most important kind of games. The games where last year we would have lost points. It feels like it's not the same as it was last year. And it feels like there's something special that's coming. Maybe it's not fully going to reach its potential this year because it won't, I think, with all the new additions. But it really feels like there's something brewing again. And it's a good feeling to get excited all over again, unless we continue to go down 1-0 just to really piss us off for some reason.
Yeah, I mean, while I agree for the most part, the negative part of me says, then why are we not fixing this problem? Because this has been a problem going on for quite some time now. I'm not talking about the morning one. I'm more talking about like how we start almost every game, it feels like. I mean, aside from the Villa game this year, where we got the early goal. So I don't know how it would have gone if we didn't have to get the early goal. But it's always like we are not waking up until later in the game. You okay there? Like being attacked by
I don't know what the fuck that was.
it's like a little Spider-Man coming down on you, or what's going on?
That could have been a spider. Yeah. All right. I'm fine. It's fine. You guys, whatever.
I
It's
mean, if you
fine.
need help, we'll send help.
Jesus.
There's a lot of people watching. Like, we'll just
All
have
right,
some backup over.
everyone just needs to calm down.
I would come over, but I'm a couple of hours away. So by the time I
Yeah,
get
by the time you
there,
came, I'd be dead.
the spider would have eaten you alive. So no, I mean, why are we starting slow? Why are we
Great
or
question.
why are we not fixing this? I guess because while it's great to see these comebacks and it is promising in that sense. I mean, you kind of like hop once, you hop twice, and then third time you flop.
Yeah, eventually slow starts and conceding early is going to give more clinical teams a few more goals before we start to turn things around. So I don't know what the early start nonsense is all about. I'm sure it's something Klopp addressed it last year. There was a stretch last year where it was 7 or 8 games in a row where it would just And he said that that's the one thing they're trying to fix. But then after he said that comment, I think the next game they let up a goal within like the first 3 minutes too.
Yep.
So I really don't know what it is. I wish I could sit here and confidently say, but if I could confidently say it, then they would know what to do. So I don't know what it is.
And sometimes the more you talk about this stuff, and like Klopp was a little dismissive about it the first 10 times it happened. But because you can kind of talk stuff into existence, right? Like you can kind of talk about it so much that when you come out there, you make it a reality. Because you're like, oh, we're going to start slow again kind of thing. And that's how you end up starting. Serzi says we're not expecting teams to come out and attack us like that. But when will we ever learn, I guess, is the question, because it is happening. Because you got to figure, if we know it, opposing teams know it as well, and know that is the time to strike. Once we settle into the game, it could get ugly and it could go bad. So that is the time to strike before we really get going. And it keeps like happening over and over again. Ryan said, Mac did suck. I mean, obviously it's in hindsight. I mean, we talked about it in the pre-match. We were shocked to see him there, but I think we kind of liked seeing him there just because, of his like presence. But yeah, he looked like he was still on the plane with the oxygen mask.
Yeah, it was rough. And I think everything is always going to seem a lot easier in hindsight, right? We should have had someone else there, but I think ultimately what that just means is that Klopp trusts him so much that he wants him to play in that position for the foreseeable future. I feel like if Mac wasn't meant to be in that position for the long run, for now at least, then he wouldn't have started because it wouldn't have really been necessary. But now given how the team is forming, and I think we might have talked about it a little bit on the pre-match, is that rather than having just 1-6, Klopp is just going with 3 8s, and he feels like McAllister is the perfect 8 in that 6 spot to consistently be there. And I feel like if maybe he was worried that if he wasn't going to get the next go, then they would lose a little bit of that consistency from the prior match a few weeks ago. So yeah, it unfortunately didn't work out, but it's not to say that it's not going to turn around next week, right? I mean, after the Europa League, I think we'll be fine. It's just, it wasn't a great idea to bring him on after he was 70 million miles above sea level, and then just playing about 48 hours beforehand.
Only a couple of hours from you, though, probably.
It's only a couple hours, really.
I think, I mean, the care that we show with Diaz and Nunez, we probably should have shown with him as well and saved him for the second half or the last 30 or whatever. I think I know, like, you watch that game, and I mean, he was a key part of everything going wrong because he's losing the ball in like bad spots, putting the team in bad situations. And Wolves showed once again. I mean, this is the second time I like watched the Wolves game because it's not, something I do. But I did watch them against United, and it was the same exact thing. So dangerous, but can't like finish to save their lives. And it did help us out in this game, that's for sure. Let's talk about this a little bit. I mean, I don't know about this specifically, but let's talk about Szoboszlai, who, Chris says that he'll win the Ballon d'Or with the next 3 seasons. It was an interesting thing to see him be Thiago, if you will, in terms of when we were in the second half, constantly coming back to get the ball, and everything was starting with him. He was the one, dropping. I mean, he was basically, we kind of switched to a 4-2-4, but within that 2, he was the one that was the playmaker. Interesting role for him. How do you like it moving forward? Because, I mean, basically, he kind of filled in for Trent. I think Ryan was mentioning it earlier in terms of missing his creativity because we didn't get anything from the center of the field. He kind of replaced that Trent role, but more aggressively, to the point where he was constantly, trying to get open to get the ball so that everything starts with him.
But part of that too was, I think we had talked about this, that getting in guys like McAllister and Szoboszlai allows Trent not to have to be so creative. So while I do think that we missed Trent's creativity, I don't think that was the reason why the offense in the first half looked so bad. I just think it looked so bad because players were tired and just, I don't know, they weren't up for it in the first half. And I think that's really it, because the whole reason that we brought in the playmakers like Mac and Sobo is to alleviate the need to have to always create from that right side or from that inverted role. So I think going forward, I don't expect Sobo to be in that role so much, because I think we don't really know who the preferred three in the midfield is going to be yet. Like, that could still change over the next 4 to 5 weeks still. And then we get a really good idea and a good sense of what that looks like. But I don't think that includes Sobo dropping back, because I think him being a little bit more forward and then occupying that the midfield plus the right side where Trent would have occupied is really where he is going to be most fit. So while I think it worked really well in the second half, I don't think it's always going to be the way to go. But I can't deny that he's just a fucking workhorse, that he just won't stop running. You know, I mean, it doesn't matter where he's running to, he just won't stop running. So
I think
it's
he
great to
was
see.
the only player we had in the. I saw a chart of like top 10 in terms of like miles covered or ran or something like that, and he was our only player. I think like 6th or 7th in the league or something like that. Obviously, that goes with minutes and stuff too, because he has played the full 90, whereas others have come off and everything. But I do agree with exactly what you're saying. I think he would be the one that's still attacking, was just filling in for Trent, because normally you would get that from Trent, and this way you can use Soboslai more on the wing or to create space for Mo to run behind and everything like that. But I mean, overall, obviously at the end of the day, the 3 points is great. You just keep stacking them up and keep moving on. But like, what is your overall feeling when you get away from that? I kind of walked away with it saying, we got away with that one. Not in terms of not deserving the win or anything like that, but that could have been a lot worse. We kind of got away with that first half and was able to make it. That's kind of like how I walked away from it.
It could have easily been 3-0 like it was last year, and we'd walk away going away from it like, what the hell? What was that?
Do you
all
think
about?
that difference is in the Wolves, or is that difference in us? I guess is the big question.
I think part of it is Wolves, right? Because if they finish those 2 other clear-cut chances they had in the first half, especially that missed header right in front of Ali.
You know what the sad thing is? I've been there where like you're waiting for the ball, you were gonna head it, then it changes, and then every muscle says something else on your body, so you just come into this like weird.
You just freeze in midair, like, okay, this is where we're going. Yeah, if that had gone in, I think things would have been so different. So I think part of it was just Wolves, and then Klopp just needed halftime to reconfigure, and I think from there made the necessary. I mean, again, this is one of those things where it was good to see Klopp make the necessary changes and have it work again, because it's sort of it's lending itself to a good pattern. We've seen patterns in the past where there were changes that weren't made in time, or just weird changes, and it just didn't really impact the game at all. It's nice to see that there have been several games now where there were changes that were necessary, that were made, and that also benefited the team.
I agree to that. I was going to ask you about that as well, actually, like the changes. Cyrus is the difference in both sides, which probably there's truth to that, because I do really feel like, I don't know, like a Wolves team that had Raul Jimenez, for example, right in the middle, would have probably gotten them maybe a few more goals and could have kind of like made things a lot more difficult. I don't know if we come back from that. So Ramsey says Kwanzaa is not getting enough credit for distracting. Yes, I mean, he was there. I mean, he, first of all, had an excellent game, which, in the pre-match, we were like, oh, that's something that will wake you up like 4:30 in the morning, 5:30 in the morning kind of thing, seeing a kid in the lineup, Gomez as right back and everything. But I felt like, especially in the first half, he was probably our best player on the pitch.
Yeah, and he was actually one of the few players who was able to get the ball to go forward, I feel like, because that was, I think someone in the chat had mentioned that we lacked creativity and pace in the front 3 in the first half. And while that might be a little true, it is also difficult. We couldn't get the ball to those guys either, right? The midfield just seemed so disjointed where there wasn't really a moment to get the ball to them. So I think Kwanzaa was fantastic. I'm not going to sit here and say, all right, he's ready to replace Virgil, right, at the end of the year. It gave him another year, 2 years or so, and I think we're going to feel even more confident, not have to really push him in so quickly and have him potentially take on too much pressure at once. But it's good to know that if Virgil does have another meltdown, or if someone does get hurt, that there is a serviceable center back that can go in there. But we should still look for at least one more for cover ultimately. But it's nice to know there's decent enough skill there for rotation's sake.
I think he has a great chance. I mean, we're going to see he's going to have Europa, and he's going to have a lot of games to show, I think, that, I mean, out of one game, you don't want to say he's the real deal, just like you wouldn't want to say, man, this guy is not all that. So I really think, it's good to, that's the only good thing to have Europa. I think we're going to be able to see a lot more of him and see if he actually like makes an impact and kind of continues this. And it's actually a trend. And we're like, hey, this kid is solid. Because I really think that would change the outlook that you probably will have too, right? Like when we come to December and January, you're like, I don't know if you need another left-footed center back now, unless you're getting like a top-notch one, because we do have somebody good. It's too early to say that now, but if you saw him 5-6 more times with the same performance, would you still say, yeah, let's get another left-footed center back?
Maybe then we look to have a little bit of extra depth, just center back in general. Doesn't have to be specifically left-footed, but just to have one more, because center backs at the club are getting older, right? With Van Dijk and Matip, and Gomez, he is good for that, for the right back, backup for Trent as well. So I feel like if things are a bit dire and you have a couple guys go down, having one more on hand that is able to play it serviceably would be a good way to go. But also it goes into the argument of, well, are you going to really get someone to agree to be a fifth choice center back if they have a chance to play 90 minutes at other clubs in other leagues right now, or maybe, in the championship? So yeah, that's the tough part, is we always forget that these players want to play, and it's not so easy as like, hey, come to Liverpool, you're going to be part of a great club. But if they're not playing, they might not want to come to a big club. They want to still play, unless they feel they have a legitimate chance to challenge for the starting spot, which right now they really wouldn't. Then what is the point if they're getting 90 minutes anywhere else and then can still play?
Yeah, I feel like that's like, people are always like, I mean, we kind of look at it as a fan, and we say, well, you should come over here. He's going to play for Liverpool. And then, if you're like good, earn the minutes and stuff. But like, why would you, if you have a career decision to make, that is a really poor career decision to make, to sit behind somebody in the years where you want to be playing and kind of like getting experience. Like, you're not going to replace Mo. Doesn't matter what you do. You can be doing flips in practice while you're scoring. It does not matter. You're not going to replace Ellison. There are certain players on this team. You're not going to come to this team as a right back and be like, oh, you never know, maybe I'll replace Trent and stuff like that. So I understand why a young player or a young up-and-coming player, maybe not like a 19, 20-year-old, but like a 23, 24-year-old would want more job security or like, minute guarantee kind of a deal before they come over. But I think that's where the aging midfield comes in. I mean, I think Serzi was saying earlier that, he should probably be replacing Matip's place in the pecking order, which I think he will down the right. But I mean, he's on the left-hand side. You would think on the right-hand side, Gomez is above Matip right now, I believe. So it would be Konate, Matip. I mean, Konate, Gomez, Matip maybe on the right-hand side, and now you have Kwanzaa. It's, I guess, better than if he's reliable and he keeps this play. Like I say, you don't want to get overexcited out of one game. But if he does, it's better than playing a right center back on the left, because it is a huge, huge difference, and it's a huge adjustment to make. So January, we need to get a Premier League ready CDM and center back. CDM is definitely not happening. I can guarantee you that. Center back, perhaps, but I think we have a few months now ahead of us to see what we have. And I think that's what I kind of like about going into January. Then we can kind of make our minds up. Yeah, the 4-2-4 was in effect. It's to the point where it felt like beginning of the second half, it was way too crowded up there, and they were like running into each other. They were like, God damn it, this is my space. So it took a little bit for the team to adjust. But, it works. Gomez playing the switch role clearly didn't work. The point is to get Trent to the better positions to cause damage, because it doesn't have that killer pass. Yeah, I mean, that was probably unfair on Gomez too. I mean, we give Gomez is the new Lovren. I mean, he has been since poor Lovren left. But I feel like Mateusz that he gets put into situations. We did this with Jones. We did this with Carvalho. Sometimes we put these players in situations where there's no win for them, and we know doing it that there is no win for them. And when it's a guy like Milner, let's say when he was here, when we play him left back, it's like, oh, he's such a team guy. He plays where we put him. He's not the best left back, but he did his best. But when we put Gomez in a situation where he probably shouldn't be, we don't say he gave his best. We was like, he's no good, and he gets all the flack for
it. Every team just needs a scapegoat at the end of the day, right? If something doesn't go right.
We have you, for example, an American Scouser.
Yeah, we do. Yeah, we do. Because God forbid I wanted to ask a question about breakfast and it came out so terribly. But
if you missed the pre-match, he's referring to the part where he called me fat.
I didn't
without saying it, though.
Say that. I feel like right now, I don't feel anything, actually.
That's probably for the spider's bites earlier.
I'm changing into something now, and I don't know what to do. But yeah, Gomez is unfortunately getting the short end of the stick because, like with most clubs, there's always going to be that one guy that you feel like is the problem with everything. Like Darwin misses a sitter. Well, Gomez should have fucking been up there to tell him to make it. It feels like it's at that point where there is nothing that he can do right. He has a couple of great games early in the season, and then all of a sudden we all forget because he's forced to play this role that he's clearly not comfortable in. And I don't understand. And we saw in the first half when he was playing that inverted role, I was looking at it going, that doesn't make sense because him and Trent are not the same kind of player, and that's okay. Like, it's okay to have a different right back. It's just not okay to then force the right back that's not comfortable with that position to play an inverted role, where then we saw in the traditional back four in the second half, it just looked much better because everyone was much more comfortable. And so, yeah, it's just going to be one of those things where he's just going to get a lot of flack from fans because there are some players on this team that are untouchable for criticism. And that's just how it is. Some get no criticism and some get all the criticism, and it's not going to change.
Got a lot of typos when Christopher said it was interesting to see Gravenberg's son. I thought he misspelled son. So I was like, his son was up there. He was getting minutes, and then he meant sub. Yeah, I mean, I think it was nice to be able to do that, to get him some minutes out there. And obviously, and he almost had a goal and stuff like that. And you saw a little bit of what you can get from him, I think, overall. And it could be more about getting him ready for the Europa game. I feel like he's going to get a lot of minutes coming up over here to get worked in. Ryan says, am I actually sold on our CDM position? I'm not either. But you did not sign Endo, and you have Basetic coming. Like, as of now, you're kind of like a wait and see mode, I think, in the defensive midfield position. You don't know if you can use their Mac for now and eventually actually convert Mac to be more comfortable with that, especially if Gravenberg comes in and starts kicking in. That opens up a spot for him. He can't play where Mac was. And then, Mac can play the 6. You do not bring Endo in, I don't think, just to be... This is not a Taki kind of move, or it's not like a Davies kind of move, or you just sign somebody to be a body. There is some money spent on him, his age and his experience. He's going to get minutes. Obviously, he probably will see a lot of him. I really think we're going to see him on Thursday, for example, and we'll start making it better. As of now, I feel like it's just too early. We haven't seen enough of anybody. I don't think Klopp has. Obviously, they practice not only game time, but you got to see some game time action too. And we don't know how Basetic going to come back. And we haven't really seen Endo play 6 on this team yet to say he's not good enough. Anytime he played, we were down to 10 men.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's who I want to open the floor up is who do you bring in January? If you're that convinced that a CDM is available, that is Premier League proven, that can just walk into this side, start out in that spot and play every week, you give me that name and you give me a price and we'll see if that person exists right now, because it doesn't. There isn't anyone that you can think of that's going to fit that role. People might say, Andre, we have no idea. We have no idea how he's going to play.
Ryan turned himself in. He's like, yep, nope, not me. I don't have a name. Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. I mean, we saw what the people we were interested in, you would think in January the price might be lower because the desperation, they won't think we're as desperate. But I think, and I mean, Ryan says a lot of maybes. Exactly. But I think when you have those maybes, you don't go spend like Andre. I don't know anything about Andre. Seen some, I mean, like Saida says Andre is better than Endo.
We don't know
I mean,
that.
I'll take his word for it if he's like a solid watcher of the Brazilian like league or anything. But hey, RFD King says, "How do I donate?" You do not have to donate, but what you can do is subscribe to the channel, and that's all we need. Your following, subscriptions, and your support, and just join in the chat. But if you do want to donate, I guess you can contact us from the site as well. We can get some spider killer for Mateusz over here. Speaking of, by the way, it's a good time to subscribe. Yeah, heads up. You keep covering your back over there, dude. This month, um, shout out to Jess Meats. Sure, why not? Why the hell not? And Ork Boy says, "Is there a Discord?" There is a
There
Discord, so
is.
we'll post that. I'll post an invite actually in the chat right now shortly, so you can hop on there as well, Ork Boy. But if you have not hopped onto the YouTube, Surround Sound is also taking donations. Looks like. But hey, don't cut in line over here. Okay, we got first dibs on this donation over here. So back the hell off. Let's get our money, then you can get in line. We'll give you like a cut or something like that. But yeah, there's a Discord. But more importantly, if you are going to YouTube right now and subscribe, you do have a chance to. And there's your Discord link coming your way right there, Ork Boy. But you subscribe, you get a chance to win. We have 12 days left over here, and then we select the winner and give this jersey. This might be the jersey that is the title winning home jersey. That's our Polish prince can demonstrate right here. The one you get will not have Soboslai, will be not on the back. You'll have to throw your old names in there. Ryan says, to be clear, I'm cool with the midfield situation right now. I just feel like we could make one more move. I think it's just a way. I mean, the good thing is we can't do it even if you wanted to right now. And I think you have 2 months to find out what the heck is going on. You're not going to know what we're going to get in terms of, injuries and all that kind of stuff, who's going to be in form and all that. So I think really what we're going to there is going to depend more on what happens over the next 2-3 months is my guess.
I mean, we could always be in the mindset of it's always cool to make one more move. I think it's always nice to have that one more player come in where you feel like they're there for rotation's sake. They're there just in case someone goes down. It's nice to always have that one more move. So I don't disagree that I don't think we need someone. I just don't see anyone else that would come in that would make sense. I don't think Andre is better than Thiago. I don't think Andre is better than Endo. Based on where they play and where they've played, there's no evidence for me to say that I would prefer this one over the other one when we've seen what these players are capable of doing. Or maybe Endo not to a full extent, but he did play in the Bundesliga for a long time. And I'm not going to shit on the Brazilian league because I'm sure there's a couple of good teams there, but the league in general, the quality is not to the quality of a Bundesliga, of the Premier League. And so if you just take that sample size from that league, it's not always going to translate well. And that's the problem with having these high expectations of, oh, well, if we just pay 30 million for that guy, he'll come in, he'll be just fine. We never know that. And I'd much rather sit on the idea of maybe having 3 box-to-box 8s that work together in that midfield, as opposed to having the traditional CDM and then McAllister and Soboslai.
Yeah, I mean, it's an experiment that we're clearly working on. And I think overall, this last game, I don't think is a sign of if it's working or not. Just because, I mean, we know his quality, and that was not the McAllister. We know clearly his legs were not there, and probably should have given the same treatment that Diaz and stuff got. I don't know who that goes to. I don't know if it goes to the physios who said, yep, he's ready to go. I know if McAllister says, I'm good, man, I can go, and we kind of trust him and take his word and say, maybe you were not. He did not seem when you saw him on the bench, you did not seem too pouty or upset or anything like that over it. So I'm assuming he
I mean, just
also
look at
knows.
him. Look at them there. They're just happy together.
Yeah,
It's
right.
that's yeah. Understood the situation, and it is what it is. Wasn't
That was
ready.
like Klopp is like, is this where it hurts or is this where it's sore? Like,
The Klopp, he's pretty much saying, "I'm sorry for throwing you out there when you couldn't breathe. I should next time I'll do better."
I think so. I mean, yeah, Ryan says Mac is definitely better than Saturday. And I think everybody knows that. It's kind of like one of those deals where it's kind of like a hindsight thing. I think when we saw him over there, we were like, oh, good, like he's there, he can play. But being out there and being able to play are not the same thing. Sparkus says he likes Veltman from Brighton. I'll tell you what, I like a lot of people from Brighton. I watched that United
I
game.
like that whole team.
That team is a lot of fun to watch. I mean, it's a team that plays football. It is a lot of fun to watch. It wasn't only fun to watch. I was like, I'm really enjoying this because they're making United look like a joke. So that was fun by itself. But aside from that, it is really a joy to watch, like how they play, how that ball was moving around. I mean, they literally at one point made United quit on chasing the ball, which doesn't take a whole lot, but it is, it's just fun. It's just fun to watch how they move the ball around and how like dominated they are. So Europa League means no more 12. I think we have one more.
That's wrong. Yeah, there's still
We have
one
one
more.
more, and I think that's the Derby game, right? The
It
Everton
is.
game when we come back from the next international break, I think.
Yep.
And I understand that. Honestly, I think I agree. And then, this is why, Klopp has a name amongst fans. When we do the panel show, for example, there's a lot of like banter going around. I always mess with Arteta's Lego head and stuff. And, when you talk to other fans, you realize, Klopp is known more out there for somebody who complains a lot. And I think he's kind of like when we were talking about earlier in terms of like push starts, you can talk stuff into existence. I feel like we have talked this into existence by bitching and moaning about it nonstop. And I realize the numbers are skewed. We had more early games, but you cannot tell me if McAllister started 2 hours later, it was going to be a totally different McAllister. It is what it is. It's the same freaking day. People play 2 hours after us. So get over yourself and go out there and play. The other guys are playing too, and they have players coming from international duty too. I realize we have a lot more, but it is what it is. You kind of got to own up to it and play it. It's not like everybody else was playing on Tuesday and we played Saturday morning.
Right. Yeah, I agree. And I think maybe part of it is that there's just so much spoken about that specific thing that it bleeds into the locker room. And then the players' mindsets from the beginning is like, oh, well, I guess if we're all going to be so tired and get shafted by this schedule, then we might as well not feel so good about it. And it maybe it's just subconsciously, not on purpose, that they're sitting there going, yeah, we should bitch and moan. But it's same thing in like a work environment. If you have like the head of your office constantly complaining and feeling like these certain things put people in a bad mood, that trickles down. And then all of a sudden you have those people be like, oh yeah, I am in a bad mood because of that, because it just trickles down. And so it makes sense.
So I think we disappointed Dom over there. I don't know where Dom is on the East Coast or West Coast, but if he's West Coast, he's probably like cursing us out just right now.
One more.
Yeah, I think just one more, at least for the time being. God knows what will happen afterwards. So another business to take care of. Let's do this because I do a very bad job of this overall. If you have not head on over to our website, you are missing out on a ton of really good content. We have some excellent writers now. I mean, when we first started the sites way back in the day, even I was writing. Exactly. You know what, man? You know what, when I can rip on me my writing. You watch your freaking spider over there. But anyway, even I was writing, so we were in shambles. But now, we have some excellent writers. A lot of these guys, actually, we have them from both sides of the pond as well. But Chris's articles just went out today about the Europa League. Obviously, it's coming up. I know there's a piece coming up from if you have not read any of Harry's pieces, they are excellent tactical pieces. That guy knows his stuff, and he can really get across his stuff. More importantly, I mean, we know some stuff too, but God knows what our blabbering gets across. But he's excellent at it, and I know he's got a piece coming out just for this last game alone in the next few days or so, probably tomorrow or Wednesday, I would think. And lastly, before I forget to mention, well, Greg did a piece on the Europa League, basically talking about our opponents. If you want to kind of take a look, and you're like, who the hell are these teams? But on the left-hand side, you see Alex's article. I think it's a very, very excellent article. Like when I read it, I was like, wow, it's very personal. And it's very honest. So if you have not read that, definitely read it. It kind of really made me happy reading it, in the sense that this is why we kind of like, I started this site way back in the day anyway. It was kind of like to bring people like us together and hang out and banter and joke and laugh. And I wasn't planning on getting insulted on a daily basis by some Polish bastard. But, I think apart from all that, we reached our goal overall. Wouldn't you say?
I'm so glad I'm a couple hours away.
If I'm walking, because as you say, I'm fat. So let's go to the next headline over here. You actually mentioned this, brought this up, which is always great to get some kind of contribution from you on the show. So can't play this game, buddy. Antonio says, hold on, let's go over here.
Deleting
this
the map.
Is the big part right here. I know for a fact that Mohamed Salah wanted to leave. Did you know that Antonio and Salah were like this?
Best friends. I mean, Mo pretty much, they vacation together. Every international break, I've only ever seen those two together. They're on each other's Instagram stories all the time. It makes Costas very jealous. And yeah, I think Mikel Antonio knows a lot of stuff that we obviously don't know, because, we don't follow the team as closely as he does. We're not so obsessed like he is. So unfortunately, we don't know as much as he does.
I think the only issue with having multiple, we're probably the last person to complain about it, but like podcasts and stuff like that is, this is one thing we don't do, is it's trying to get, so is it like Ronaldo? There's Timuchin. There's okay. Once again, talking things into existence. Let's not get this fat Timuchin thing into existence over here. Trying to lose weight, damn it! What I did this weekend surely doesn't help. But so and the podcast, going back to that, I think they're trying to get cooked, because there's a bunch of them over here. Like he said, a bunch of stuff. I feel like, some of these players are being set by questions, and then he might have given like an answer. Like he's not like, oh, I'm really tight, I'm like, I know, but he just answers. He's like, oh, I know for a fact he would have gone. And I think this is presented as he said it's a fact.
Maybe, but I think it's also the way that he said it, and then what he said afterwards too. He talked about how, if he stays, what do they get out of it? Oh, they win another Premier League. So what? That's his attitude towards that. And it's clear to see why he never, he's not at the level where he could be, because the mentality there is just not the right mentality. It's not a so what, just another Premier League title. That's a huge thing. That is an absolutely huge thing that many players who play in the league would just dream of winning one day. And so I think, maybe is to Sergi's point, maybe is just trying to wind us up before next week's game. If that's the idea, I don't think that's a good thing to do, because the last thing you want to do is probably piss off Mo right before you play against them. Who knows? Yep. But it's just a really weird thing to talk about while the season's ongoing, and especially right before you play this team. It's one thing where you have players sit down and do podcasts, and then they're asked generalized questions about this or this. But it's another thing to have a specific target that you're talking about a situation that you don't really know the full extent of. Because if you really understood the transfer window and the transfer market, why would we sell someone without having any time to buy anyone to replace him? Like that sort of thing, it wouldn't have made sense. And maybe he's just jealous that he's not going to be offered that kind of money. As surround
ever.
Yeah. And so that could be part of it. And he's maybe just spewing that out there for that fact. But it's just weird overall.
Yeah, because he said, so he wins another Premier League title. Do you know what that just means? He has won another. It doesn't add much to anything else. He has done everything he could possibly do at Liverpool. I'm saying to you right now, a Muslim man going to a Muslim country, 215 for a 31-year-old completely. Why do you think Liverpool are playing for this year? Even if you couldn't replace the man, let's call the season a write-off. I mean, like, speak for yourself. I just don't understand that's like a really, really poor thinking, I feel like, from a player, because you can ask any top player and they don't say, well, I won everything already. Like, you think, like, there are players going around. There are a lot of players who won I mean, then, like, so the Real Madrid squad should just be like, I guess we're fucking done. Like, all these, like, young guys that are over there, like, I guess we won. We done the Champions League, the league. What else is there to do? Kind of
Well,
thing.
hell, look, he won the Europa Conference League, so his life is done. I mean, he doesn't. There's nothing else to aspire to, right? And that's where he's coming from. Is what else is there to play for when you've won the biggest trophy of all?
Yeah, I mean, what are you gonna do? Win another one? Like, yeah, I mean, I just don't
dare you.
understand. I mean, there are players. That's the thing. Like, the really winning mentality players are going to say, "I want to win everything again and again." And not to mention, I mean, they've kind of like talked about this. The players are kind of talked about this. I think for Liverpool players, there's still a little bit of hurt inside that they were never able to do the parade and stuff like that and celebrate with the fans, similar to what they did in the Champions League. But after the Champions League, every player, and I do believe in their honesty, saying, they want to win it again just to be able to experience that part again, like the celebration part again, because that was so cool. Yeah, no player says, no winning mentality player, let's say, says, what else is there to do? And not to mention, yeah, I mean, you might never get money like that, Antonio, but and then it's not like, tomorrow Mo has suddenly become like convert to being a Christian or something like that. He's going to be Muslim next summer as well, and that money is going to be there. I think that's always, for a guy like Mo, that's a very easy and sensible, unlike Henderson's, like a next phase transition thing to go there, get the money. That's always going to be there while still at his peak game. I think it's only sensible for him to say, I still want to compete at the highest level. The money and all that stuff is always there for me. I'll just go there because I feel like, and we talked about this before, Mo will probably play. He's going to be that guy that probably goes to like 37, 38.
Yeah, but he has that mentality where he wants to break every record that he thinks he's capable of breaking. Like, he's just that kind of player where he wants to set a goal, he wants to set out and do it. And that's just what he wants to do. And I think that separates, again, because Mikel Antonio has every physical attribute that you could probably ask for as a player. And for several sports, probably, given what his build is like. But it's just, that's the separation between guys like Mo and guys like Antonio, where it's a mental thing. And if you don't want it as bad, then the person's going to beat you out for it. And then that just sort of shows, once you say, oh, so what, they win another league title, it really shows how weak that mentality is, because they're really, what are you playing for then? It's probably maybe just money, which fine, players do that. That's fine. But it's not the players who want to win that only play for money. The players who want to win play for money and they want to win.
Yeah, I mean, it's not like they're playing for free if they play for a win. I mean,
he's still making money.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, it's not generational wealth. But it's still a lot of money. I guess all the City players are now off to Saudi. They won everything this.
Oh, thank God.
I mean, that is such a loser. Yeah, we wish, but that's such a loser mentality to say. Like, what are you going to do? Win another title? That's just sounds.
Do what I dare you.
Yeah, so pathetic that he would say that. And yeah, that's a whole quote there. It's not even like taken out of context. And he said that. That's a way of thinking. That's for a guy who plays angry and full of like desire and ambition. I never saw that coming from him, to be honest with you. Like, I just did not see that coming from him. Someone you watch on the field plays a bit more, we're just here to have fun kind of a look to him. Some players have that. I could have seen that coming from a player like that, but definitely not him. So kind of like little shock for that. So days, but signs are the mentality monsters are back. Are they? Because honestly, I know we were talking about this with Mecca in the podcast. He was talking about like grits and stuff like that. I don't really see this game, for example, the Newcastle game. Yes, this game I do not see as like grit and mentality monsters. I basically see this as a team who woke up too late, and if they started with on the right foot, this was going to be an easy fixture. They made it look like a comeback.
I think I will be convinced that the mentality monsters are back when they start the first 5 minutes like they did against Villa more often than they start the first 5 minutes like they did against Wolves. Because mentality monsters isn't just about coming back from trailing. It's about getting off on the right foot, like you said. It's about getting good starts. It's about just punishing your opposition from the get-go, and not giving them a chance to punish you. I think that's all in effect when it comes to mentality monsters. And yeah, it's nice to be able to go down and still have that hope. Whereas last year, I think when we went down early, I know I was missing that. There was no moment, especially in the second half of the season or the first half of the season, or maybe the entire season, where we'd concede early, and then I wouldn't have the same sort of feelings that I have now or that I had back then, where okay, this will be fine. They'll come back. So I think compared to that last year, there might be a bit more of that mentality monster personality, but not quite to the levels of several years ago where it feels much more comfortable overall.
Yeah, I mean, like he says, it is early days. I guess to me, the difference is when, we would sometimes concede goals and try to come back when we were chasing City, like over the years, like a lot of last minute goals, a lot of Diva classics and stuff like that. But it was a team, when we conceded that goal, it was, I mean, every team has quality. And when you play with a high line, you're going to give some chances. So that was like, okay, that's fine. They got away, they got a counter, they got us one. Now we have to try to get it back. I feel like some of these games, like this game, like it wasn't like a one-off. We were pretty much dominated the first half in terms of like creating chances and stuff like that. And it could have been a lot worse. I feel like in those games, I never felt like this could have been a lot worse. It was just more like, God damn it, man, we shouldn't have conceded a goal. And I think that's like to me, that's like the biggest difference. And then you try to come back from that because you're not going to take no for an answer and you want to win. To me, that's mentality monsters. But I feel like we got away with it in this game. And I think that's like the biggest difference for me. If they have a better striker or a finisher, I think this game gets out of control, but we do not come back from it. And I think that's the difference. Having said that, it is good to see the team recover as opposed to fold, like you were saying last year. This could have been a 3-0 game, either because Wolves are finishing or because we're not actually coming back and like straightening our act kind of deal. So before we go, and I'm going to ask this to the panel on Wednesday's Premier League panel show, and I'm sure the boys will talk about it in their Premier League show with Gally and Bickler. Would you rather be, let's play a little would you rather to finish it up. Would you rather be a United fan or would you rather be a Chelsea fan and death is not an option?
Could I just cut my eyes out? I won't die.
Go eat the spider.
Yeah. I think I'd rather be a Chelsea fan because at least the players on the team aren't total human pieces of garbage outside of the field too. They might be garbage on the field, but they're not entirely garbage off the field as well. I say that now before something comes out, but yeah, I think that's where I'm at. And I think I have more faith in what is already at Chelsea than what is already at United. As far as
you mean in terms of squad?
Yes.
Okay.
Because Chelsea has 47 players to pick from. So like eventually you're going to find a combination that might work. But they're also not total scumbags off the pitch as well.
That's a fair point. I did not even like think about that. I was more thinking about on the pitch. But I think Sparky says I'd become a baseball fan.
That's crossing the line, Sparky. We don't
that
cross
is crossing
line.
the line. That is crossing the
line.
Up. That's 2 seconds away from calling each other fat or something. That's uncalled for. Ryan says a Villa fan. I think I don't think Shay's gonna like that, but I agree to that. Not only that, I think if you think about it, as a club, you still have some weird owner issues, right? You have an owner that's spending money on one side but doesn't know what for, just like spending money like they just won the lottery or something like that. And then It's like reminds me of like a drunk guy who won in Vegas, like buying shots for everybody and spending all the money, but it's not really going anywhere because like it came from nowhere, it's just going to nothing, But it's at the same time like United, yeah, you have so many other issues than the issues you have on the pitch, like just figuring out your best starting 11 and what you need and stuff like that. Is only maybe like a quarter or a half of your worries. Whereas at Chelsea, first of all, you have the money, so you can move another 10, 15 of your players away and get somebody. But yeah, I think if I had to choose, it's probably a better scenario. Sparky says, okay, these were not options, people. You guys are copping out over
this
here.
is not a would you rather.
It's like Bears fan. How is a guy in Detroit a Bears fan, by the way? That can't be flying well over there, but it could be worse. You could be like Bigler and be a Lions fan. So yeah, I mean, that was not an option. You guys are cheating. See, I wouldn't let Matuish get away with those answers.
I'm an honest guy. I play the games by the rules.
How long does Poch have at Chelsea if results keep going this way? How long do either one of them have? If they go like this, who leaves first? Ten Hag or Poch? See, Ryan is playing by the rules. No, he's at Chelsea. I would like to, if somebody says United, I would like to know who and then what their reasoning would be, to be honest with you, like why they would choose that.
There was a Gary Neville quote that came out. I think it was either late yesterday or early this morning that I saw.
About the Glazers?
What's that?
About the Glazers or
no? Here, let me pop it up really quick. He said, I have it right here.
Ryan says both are fired the same week.
That'd be great. There's no Manchester United fan I know that has got a brain. I wish it stopped there because it's really true. But
that's good enough of a quote. And next up,
and done. There's no Manchester United fan I know that has got a brain that is most angry with Erik ten Hag. What they want really is a change of ownership, and they want stability, and they want a group of players that are committed. And I don't think the players aren't committed. So, but the Glazers have spent money. That's one thing that you can't accuse them of is not trying. It's just that the right players haven't been brought in, and maybe the right managers haven't been brought in, or maybe, like certain managers like Rangnick should have been brought in for not managing, but actually what he was good at, and is just finding talent, right? So I think Pochettino has a longer leash than Ten Hag at this moment. I think that might be weird for me to say, but I do genuinely believe that Pochettino was going to be given the full year. And I said that at the beginning of the year when he was hired, and I'll stick by that I do think he gets the full year. Whereas Ten Hag, he's been there for a little bit. He's had already some questionable results, like getting stomped by Brentford, getting stomped several times by Brighton, getting stomped 7-0 against Liverpool. Like these are results that at least Pochettino isn't having. They might not be winning against teams they should beat, but they're not getting absolutely destroyed and then having their players literally give up on the pitch.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing to me is the guys that he has brought in have not really taken off either. And I think, and some of them have gone to the dark side, if you will, and kind of like got along what the other players are doing. And I think that's like the biggest thing. I mean, I know like the Sancho thing, they're like, well, it's not a guy he brought in, but you look at like Anthony, he has brought in, and he has brought in some other players that are like it's still not working. And I think that's like a bigger problem. Like when you are, for some reason, like, when I was working a part of the management ordeal, the specialty became cleaning up messes. But when you go into a clean up a mess, and you start bringing your own people, right? Like, people who are going to understand how you want things done to get it cleaned up. Within that, there are some people who are already over there that are like, okay, this is how we're rolling now. And they will kind of join the new squad. And some of people are going to be like, we're never going to be able to keep up with this. And they phase themselves away, or you get rid of them, or whatever the case is. So, and then you get a new culture formed up. I feel like the guys he has brought in to change the culture and do things have not done that. And I think the environment is so toxic that whatever you bring in, they just go into the mess that you were trying to clean up in the first place. And sure. I think that's why he doesn't get as many brownie points as those rare Manchester United fans with a brain would give. And I think like this weekend, he definitely lost some points. I think people feel that he is favoring some players over others. And obviously, like the whole situation, he's dealing with way too much drama. United fans desperate for new owners. They have so much that. I mean, yeah, Johnny Evans getting a contract tells you what kind of mess United are. I think that is, yeah, exactly. So a guy like you would just like, he's an old guy practicing with us, just trying to get in shape till he gets a new contract. That before you know it, you're trotting him out there as your center back. It's like, wait, what? I thought he was just an old man we were just feeding. No, he's like your center back now. I mean, yeah, you look at the squad and stuff like that. I think, yeah, that's why I feel like it'll be Chelsea. I would like to know. But I think Ryan, Chris was mentioning it earlier, that if they're still in this mess by the next international break, I think there's trouble for one of them. I actually say the November one, but I can see that too. He's talking basically 4 games. I mean, I hate Galatasaray with a passion. But we were talking, and when Galatasaray got in United's group in the Champions League, Edip was happy as hell because, you know, he's a United fan. He's like, oh, this is great. Like, they're going to beat up on Galatasaray. We were talking this weekend that I would not be shocked if Galatasaray beats United at like Old Trafford or something like that, because they have like some good players up top that can counter and finish, and they can really give some trouble. So I can see what Chris is saying. You think if they have a couple of poor results in the Champions League on top of what they've done in the Premier League, the next window is, I think, like a month from now, end of October or something like that. Do one of them go, or actually more like Ten Hag?
It's going to get really spicy if things go this way, especially with Bayern coming this week. I think Bayern just stomps United. And this could be the week. I feel like Erik ten Hag has one of those moments every couple months where there's a little bit of a lull and then there's a big result that kind of reminds everyone like, oh yes, this is why we brought him in. This is the squad. This is what we need. And this could be the week that happens against Bayern Munich. They might be going up against Bayern. Everyone's not giving them any shot at all, and they might just sneak away with something. But yeah, if things progress like this, having the next international break in just a month, there's going to be at least 6 fixtures because you have the 4 Premier League games and then at least 2 Champions League games. If there's 6 fixtures and they don't get results in 4 of them, I mean, it's going to get difficult. There's going to be a difficult decision to make.
Yeah, it will be entertaining for sure. Sparky says, speaking of entertaining, how do you feel about a second window for managers alongside? I think that would be entertaining. Like the last day, like there's a bunch of managers shitting themselves because they could be like last day they can get fired.
I think that sets up a can of worms of if you're stuck there for another 6 weeks because you can't leave and you're pissed. You're gonna just set out all the kids every game. Like, fuck it, I don't care. I don't care what happens. And then
you're gonna panic, right? Yeah, if it was end of October, for example, you're gonna be like, okay, the goalie as center back, I'll put Martinez at goalie and stuff, just to get canned. Like, I have a 6-week window.
Martinez.
Yeah, Lisandro Martinez in goal would be good. Just shoot high and it'll be a goal. Okay. Well, we'll be back tonight. Actually, like Chris says, I haven't watched some United games this season. It's looking unlikely, but it's football. You never. I mean, that's the thing. I never knew about United, because when you looked at their schedule, like before this weekend, for example, and you can even say it to this weekend because I think Brighton is a really good team. Their losses have been to good teams, right? Like Arsenal, Tottenham, and now Brighton. They're all like lost to the top. But I mean, first of all, if you lose to the teams that are in the top 5, top 6, you're never going to be up there with them. But at the same time, the games they have won, they had to come back from 2-0 down against Forest. And then they really got away with an Onana assault against Wolves to get 3 points at home. Otherwise, that was a draw as well because they would have gotten the last second penalty. So it's kind of like, I don't know which way to look at it yet. Just knowing all the drama outside, I just don't think they have a lot of quality. So they'll get some points. They'll get some wins. There'll be days where everything is clicking. But I think, just when United fans think it's like, oh, we're finally back and I got them working, it's going to be another disaster because I think that's always in the background.
And I wish there was, I saw a graphic earlier this morning that had the strength of schedule so far for all the Premier League teams, from the most difficult to from the easiest. And I wish
You
I
should
had
bring
it.
this to the shows. I'm just saying.
I thought I had it up here and it just disappeared, and I feel so bad because it was here. Oh,
I'm
well,
assuming
yeah.
United is on towards the top then, right?
They're towards the bottom.
Really?
Like for more difficult.
Oh, okay.
Because at the top was easier.
Okay, I got you. Okay.
If you can stall the fans for 2 seconds, I might be able to find it.
So a rabbi, a priest, and a I'll do some programming announcements. A note from our sponsors. Where did that guy go that was going to make a donation? He just took off once the money was in. Once people were up for it, he just took off.
We're sponsored.
But yeah, we'll be back. I'll be back tonight with the gang for our regularly scheduled Monday podcast, both with Gally and Bickler. The trio will be back in effect tonight. I'm sure we'll talk a lot about the Wolves game and kind of look ahead to the Europa as well as next weekend, because we do have some tough fixtures coming up. I really, on paper, when we were looking, we kind of felt like this was on paper the easiest we have until, in terms of the league, I guess I should say, until we go back with the international, like the next international break kind of deal, because we still have a Brighton game in there, and what is Tottenham, I believe, before we head over. Okay, I can only stall so much. And then on
sorry, that's it.
So like, yeah, we'll be back with that action on that. And then Wednesday night on the panel show, we have both Spurs and Arsenal represented before they go head to head, which that should be an entertaining game to watch as well, actually. So that should be fun to get your guys show off. There you go. We'll do that. Hold on. Let's see if we can do that.
No, wait. Why do that when you've got this?
Oh, there we go. Zoom in.
Oh.
Holy shit. Okay, so the wrong way. Okay, so Chelsea, where are we at on that damn thing? We're kind of on the top, eh?
That's harder. That's better. So we've had harder fixtures, but we have
I see. Okay, United
points.
is on top.
So that's good.
Sorry. Okay.
Yeah.
So
given this, Chelsea should have a lot more points. Is essentially what that means.
Holy cow! Yes, it does. Yikes! That does not look good. That might change our answer to that question altogether, I think. Yeah, that's rough. I mean, I kind of knew, we talked about Newcastle before. I mean, they had a really tough run.
Yeah.
Us, City, who else? I mean, they had like a back, just nothing but tough games that they did lose. I think it showed the thing with Newcastle is going to be, yeah, the league is going to get easier, but they have some like brutal Champions League schedules that's going to give them a lot of like headache. So let me do this meanwhile. See, like now that he's talking about it.
Villa, City, Liverpool, Brighton, Brentford.
Hold on. Here we go. Yes, Chris has sent us a ton of this cool stuff that you are seeing. Hopefully, if you're a subscriber on our YouTube, you'll be able to see like a bunch of those, because I throw them everywhere. We just like sit down and watch them at American Scouser on like repeats, because they're pretty darn cool. But yes, I will be back tonight. Polish Prince, it's your day off, correct? Polish Prince is off on Mondays. Any plans for today?
I'm going to go get my haircut after this.
How exciting. Well, I'm going to go knock down like 12 pancakes or something like that.
God damn it. Just end the show.
And a bottle of syrup I'll just pour on top, because that's how I roll, apparently. So Ryan says day drink. That's not a bad thing as well. So we'll be back tonight. I hope you join us in our podcast over there. I'll just bring a couple of sandwiches as we record that, because I can't go a full hour without eating, as Mateusz knows. We'll be back tonight. You guys have an awesome week, everybody. Thanks.